Hey family, welcome back to the Imani Invest community. I want to start today by telling you about a friend of mine ILL called Corey. From the outside looking in, you would have sworn Corey had everything figured out. He lived in one of those new apartment buildings with the floor, 2 ceiling windows in the trendiest part of the city. He drove a leased BMW 3 Series that he washed every single Sunday morning like it was a sacred ritual. He wore clothes from brands that most people couldn't even pronounce correctly. When our group would go out for dinner, Corey was always the one suggesting the places where the menus didn't even list the prices. He'd throw his card down without a second thought, order another round of cocktails for the table, and leave a 25% tip like he didn't even notice the total. I genuinely believed Corey was rich, not just doing okay, but actually wealthy. I assumed he had a solid investment portfolio, a deep savings account, maybe even some family money tucked away. I used to measure my own financial life against his, and every time I did, I felt like I was falling behind. I felt like I was doing something wrong because I was still driving a paid-off 2017 Honda Civic and eating leftovers on a Tuesday night while Corey was living a life that looked like a commercial for the American dream. Then, one night around 2 a.m., after a birthday dinner that cost him $180, money he put straight onto a credit card, Corey finally told me the truth. He wasn't rich. He was $31,000 in debt between credit cards, a personal loan, and that car lease he couldn't actually afford. His checking account had exactly $412 in it. His savings account had zero. Literally zero. He hadn't contributed a single cent to his 401k in over a year because he had reduced his contribution to 0% just to free up enough cash to keep performing this lifestyle for everyone else. Corey was worse than broke. He was in a hole that was getting deeper every single month, while the surface of his life looked more polished than ever. Nobody knew, not his friends, not his co-workers, not even the woman he was dating. Corey had mastered the only skill that our modern consumer culture actually teaches us: how to look like you have money when you are actually drowning. I think about Corey every time I see someone living a life that looks a little too perfect or a little too effortless. Because after that conversation, I started noticing patterns. There are small signals and behavioral tells that separate the people who are actually building wealth from the people who are just spending money they don't have to create an impression. Today, I want to share 9 signs with you that someone in your life, maybe a friend, a co-worker, or even you, is secretly broke despite looking rich. Some of these are obvious once you hear them, but others are so subtle you've probably been staring at them for years without realizing what they really mean. The first sign is something that happens at the end of every group meal. They always want to split the bill evenly instead of just paying for what they ordered. This might sound like a small petty thing, but it's actually a major signal. Pay attention to how people behave when the check arrives. A person who is genuinely comfortable with their finances usually doesn't care about the arithmetic of a dinner bill. They pay for their own. They cover a friend. Or they throw a card down without a second thought. Because money is a scarce resource in their mind. But a person who is secretly broke often turns that bill into a high-stakes math problem. They suggest splitting the bill evenly because they are the ones who ordered the $47 steak and 3 cocktails while you had a salad and water. An even split means you are subsidizing their lifestyle. Or, on the other side, they immediately send a Venmo request for their portion down to the very last penny before the waiter has even walked away. That level of precision is often a sign of desperation. When every dollar is spoken for, the restaurant math has to work in their favor. According to a 2025 survey, 26% of Americans say they regularly spend more than they earn, and that number jumps to over 1/3 for people making between $75,000 and $100,000. For many, that performance at the restaurant is being funded by a credit card with a 22% interest rate. The person ordering the most expensive thing on the menu is often the one who can afford it the least, but their need for you to think they are rich is more important to them than their actual bank balance. The second sign is that they lease their cars instead of owning them, and they do it constantly. Now, there is nothing wrong with leasing if it fits a specific business need. But when you see someone cycling through a brand new lease every 2 or 3 years, always in a premium brand, always the latest model, that tells you everything about their priorities. They are paying a premium just for the appearance of a car they will never actually own. By the end of 2025, the average new car payment in America hit a staggering $767 a month. Leasing makes a $45,000 luxury vehicle feel affordable at $500 a month, but leasing is just a fancy word for renting. You are paying for the depreciation of an asset you have to give back eventually. At the end of that lease, you have no equity and no asset, just a return date and another lease to sign to keep the image alive. Truly wealthy people overwhelmingly buy their cars and keep them for 8 to 10 years. They care about the function, not the badge on the steering wheel. My friend Gabriella, who is actually building a legacy, bought a used Toyota Camry years ago for cash. It still runs perfectly. The money Corey spent on his BMW lease, if he had invested it at an 8% return, would have grown to over $40,000 in a decade. That lease didn't just cost him $500 a month. It cost him $40,000 in future wealth. But in his mind, looking better than Gabriella's Camry was worth the price. Third, pay attention to what they don't talk about. They never mention investing. People who are actually building wealth talk about money differently than people who are just spending it. For wealthy people, financial conversations are normalized. They casually mention their 401k or ask if you maxed out your Roth IRA this year the same way they ask about a new television show. Money is a tool they are actively using, not a secret they are hiding. People who are secretly broke avoid these conversations like the plague. They will steer the topic back to what they just bought, where they are traveling next, or that new 5-star restaurant. The spending is public, but the actual financial foundation, or the lack of it, is kept invisible. If you've known someone for years and you've never heard them mention a savings rate or an investment goal, that silence is a loud signal. While the average 401k balance might look okay on paper, the median balance in late 2025 was only around $34,000. That means half of all people with a retirement account have less than $35,000 saved. Many of the people posting those beautiful vacation photos today have retirement accounts that would make you wince, but they never tell you that. Fourth, they finance their furniture. I know this sounds harsh, but when someone buys a $3,000 couch on a 0% interest plan, it usually reveals a lack of liquidity. They might frame it as being smart with their money, but the truth is usually that they don't have the $3,000 in cash. If you have the savings, you buy the couch and you are done. When you finance furniture, appliances, or home goods, you are creating a long-term obligation for an item that starts losing value the second you sit on it. The buy now, pay later economy has made it so easy to juggle 5 different payment plans for a mattress, a television, and a dining table all at once. But that isn't wealth management. It's just professional juggling. If someone is financing their living room while never mentioning their investments, the math is telling a story that their Instagram posts are trying to hide. The fifth sign is one of the most reliable. They have strong opinions about expensive brands, but they have no idea what an interest rate is. This reveals where their attention lives. A person who is building real wealth knows their mortgage rate to the decimal point. They know the expense ratios on their index funds. They can explain why a Roth 401k might be better for them than a traditional one. These mechanics take up space in their brain because that's how they built what they have. A person who is secretly broke can tell you the thread count of their sheets or the difference between 2 designer handbags. But if you ask them about their credit card APR, they'll look at you like you speaking a foreign language. They know the language of consumption fluently, but they are illiterate in the language of building. One builds a future, the other builds an impression. 6. Look for visible stress around unpredictable expenses. Watch what happens when their car needs a new battery, or their kid needs an unexpected trip to the dentist. A person with a financial buffer handles these moments with a bit of annoyance. But they don't panic. It's an inconvenience, not a crisis. But for someone who is secretly broke, a $600 car repair becomes a week long emotional event. It triggers visible anxiety and leads to Venmo requests, or awkward conversations about money they weren't prepared to have. That stress is the signal that there is no margin. Nearly half of Americans say they couldn't cover a $400 emergency without borrowing money. Your friend who panics over a parking ticket while wearing a $300 designer jacket is showing you, without meaning to, that their visible spending has consumed their invisible safety net. The 7th sign is that they have a new subscription or membership for everything. Wealthy people are usually ruthlessly selective about recurring expenses. They audit their accounts and cancel what they don't use because they view every monthly charge as a leak in their wealth. Building bucket. Broke people who look rich accumulate subscriptions like barnacles on a ship. The $70 gym they never go to. 5 different streaming services, meal kits they forgot to cancel, and wine clubs for bottles they don't even open. Each one is only $15, but it adds up fast. A 2026 study found that the average American spends over $200 a month on subscriptions while believing they only spend about $80. That gap is nearly $1,600 a year in silent, automatic spending that could have been building a legacy instead. 8th, they upgrade their phone every single cycle. Having the newest iPhone the day it drops every year is a status signal, not a tool upgrade. Over a decade, that habit can cost you nearly $10,000 more than if you just kept your phone for 3 or 4 years. But the real cost is the mindset. It says that staying current is more important than staying solvent. The phone is just a prop in the same play as the leased BMW and the financed furniture. Wealthy people use their tech until it stops working because they view it as a tool, not a badge of success. The quietly wealthy person in your office is probably using a 2-year-old phone, and they haven't thought about it once. Finally, sign number 9. They always have something coming up that prevents them from saving. It's always ILL start after the holidays, or ILL max out my 401k once I finish paying off this one card. Or next year is when I am really going to get serious. If you hear these excuses from someone who never seems to lack money for a night out or a new outfit, you are watching a person narrate a plan they have no intention of following. The delay is permanent, but the spending is constant. They are stretching themselves thin to maintain an image, while promising themselves that the discipline is just around the corner. Family, I want to be very clear. This isn't about judging anyone. We live in a system that is designed from top to bottom to make us spend. Billions are spent on advertising every year to make us feel inadequate if we don't have the newest and the best. Every force in our economy pushes us toward consumption and away from building. But the reason I wanted to share this is because of what I realized after Corey told me his truth that night. I realized that the reason I felt behind for so long was a lie. I was actually doing much better than him. My Civic was paid off. My credit cards were clear every month. My 401k was growing. I was in a stronger position than the person I had been comparing myself to for 3 years. Real wealth is invisible. It lives in your retirement accounts, your index funds, your emergency savings, and the peace of mind you have when you lay your head down at night. The person driving the oldest car in the lot might be the only one who could stop working tomorrow. The 9 signs we talked about are all symptoms of a life organized around what other people can see instead of what actually compounds. Every dollar you spend to look rich is a dollar you've stolen from your own future freedom. If you recognized yourself in even one of these signs, Dante, feel ashamed, feel empowered. It means the fog is lifting. It means you are starting to see the difference between performing wealth and actually building it. Understanding that a dollar spent on appearance today is worth $10 of freedom in the future is the first step toward true independence. Corey is digging his way out now, slowly and painfully, but he'll never get those years of compound interest back. You don't have to make his mistake. You don't have to learn the hard way. The traps are predictable, but now you have the map to walk around them. Make sure the view you see when you open your bank app at 2 a.m. is one that makes you proud, even if nobody else is watching. The only view that matters. This is Imani reminding you that wealth is built step by step, and your legacy is worth more than any status symbol. If this message blessed you today, hit that like button and subscribe to the Imani Invests family. Let's keep building our futures together. I'll see you in the next one.